Hey everyone, Austin from SCHEELS. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of What's Cooking. Today we're going to be kicking off our 8-week wild game recipe. We're going to be doing this by making antelope summer sausage. This mixture consists of a 60-40 ratio, 60% antelope, 40% pork trimmings. After I take that through the grinder once, I'm going to take it through again, just for that second grind through a little bit thinner of a grinding tube. And then after that, I'm going to add some cheddar cheese, high temp cheese, and then I'm going to be using the LEM Backwoods summer sausage mix as well. So we're going to start grinding this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off. I'm just going to put a little bit down in this tube, just so when I turn on that grinder, it has something to grab onto right away. So now that I have some in the tube right there, I'm just going to alternate back and forth between pork and antelope. And you don't really have to use the stomper at all. This grinder is just going to eat right through that. This grinder just makes easy work of processing this meat. Once you get into a little bit smaller grinders that don't have all the big metal gearing, it takes a little bit longer to grind through this. We're not using little pieces either. This is a big piece right here, and it's just going to eat it right up. Last little bit, I'll use that stomper just to get it in there. So that's starting to look good, but we are going to have to do a second pass through a little bit finer of a screen on the end of this tube. So I'm going to turn off the grinder right here, and I'm going to unplug it just for safety reasons. Whenever you're starting to tear into this thing, you want to make sure it's unplugged. I just got that head switched out to the fine grind now. I'm just going to take this meat that's in this lug and get it up here on this hopper just to make my life a little bit easier when I'm going through the second pass with it. These liners are awesome to use, so you don't have to keep on dirtying your lug. You can just switch right over. Get all this in here. Okay, I got all the meat out of the lug now. Just gonna turn this guy back on. And when you're doing this, you don't have to use your plunger and just shove it down there. You're gonna jam that up. So if you just take a little bit at a time and you just kind of just finger it in there, it'll just start coming right out. See, I got a little bit too much in there, and then I'll have to use the plunger now. The colder your meat, the easier it's going to go through the grinder as well. It looks like I'm going to have to use the plunger on this. The meat is just starting to cool down just a little bit. To help out with that, you can take this whole head and you can stick it in the freezer. That'll help keep this meat a little bit colder, so it grinds a little bit easier. This grinder will spit it out as fast as you can put it in there. Okay guys, I just got done grinding the second time, so this has been ground twice now. There's no big lumps in it at all or anything, so now we're going to be moving on to the seasoning. Again, since we have 5 pounds of meat here, we're going to be using the LEM Backwoods summer sausage mix for 5 pounds. So you can just put this guy right over the top. You will have this little pack right here. You will definitely want to take that pack out, but you won't want to forget to put this in here. So this is going to be the pink curing salt that's going to cure that summer sausage. Move that right over the top. And then again, I'm just going to start mixing this in here. If you're doing a whole bunch of summer sausage, you can use an electric stuffer. Just a little bit of water in here. You don't want to use too much water when you're doing this. We're just going to keep on mixing until we don't see any of the seasoning left, and then the meat looks like it's coming together. If you get a little ball of like meat or anything stuck in the corner, you can just grab a handful of it and you can just pick up all that stuff on the outside. Or if you see a little bit of seasoning, just grab a ball of meat and kind of dab it up. It looks like this is going to need just a little bit more water. So again, just small proportions of it. You don't want to get too heavy on the water. And then just work this in. A little bit of water goes a long ways. And then once I see it starting to come together, I'll add the high temp cheese in there. You don't want to start with the high temp cheese in there right away and keep on mixing, because you'll actually start breaking those little cubes. And that's why we're using high temp cheese, is to keep those cubes when you're smoking it. Okay guys, I just got this all mixed up here. It's starting to look really good. A good way to tell that it's kind of done is if you just take a little bit of it and it starts sticking together, then it's going to be good. So now that it's all mixed up, I'm going to add my high temp cheese in here. So we have 5 pounds of meat. So a good way to start off with is 10% of your overall net weight. So this being 5 pounds, we're going to use ½ pound of cheese. You can always add more if you do want to. Some people like more cheese, some people like less cheese. That's really just a personal preference. The rest of this now. We're using cheddar cheese, but you can use a number of different cheeses. If you really like spicy stuff, they make a jalapeno ghost pepper. They make a pepper jack. The reason we're using high temp cheese though is if you use just normal cheese when it's on the smoker, once that cheese starts warming up, it'll actually just create little pockets within inside that summer sausage, and then you'll just take a bite and it'll just be just cheese. So using the high temp cheese, it's going to keep its shape. So you're going to see those nice little cubes when you bite into it. And then it's not going to melt either. So that looks pretty well mixed right there. So now that I'm done mixing, I'm just going to get this into the stuffer and start stuffing them in the casings. Okay guys, I just loaded up the stuffer here. You can stuff off the grinder if you do want to. Just having a stuffer makes it a lot easier. These casings have been soaking for about 10 to 15 minutes just to make them a little bit more pliable. So I'll get this. I'll just wet this horn real quick here. This just makes it a little bit easier to slide this guy on, and then just keeps that casing moving as it's filling up. So you don't have to be gentle with this at all. What I always do is I just basically take my hand underneath of it and I pinch around it, and then just slowly start cranking, and you're going to fill up this casing. Again, like I said, you don't have to be gentle with this. You want that to be really compressed in there and no air pockets. If you have air pockets, that's where all your fat is going to go when it's on the smoker. You can see that high temp cheese in there. And then once we start getting towards the end right here, right about there, I'm just going to take it back off just a little bit so that pressure still is in that tube, and just go to the end and then pinch off. And then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to spin this. What this is going to do is it's going to compress that meat that's in the top again. And then I'll take this guy and then I'll just start tying. Just a little overhand knot is absolutely fine. I'll get this thing started, give it a couple more twists, make sure it's tight, and then pinch. This twine came from the opposite end right here. So I'm not going to hang these guys, so instead of wasting twine, I just took the knife and cut off the loop. And then that is a done summer sausage right there. It's nice and firm. You don't see any air pockets in it at all. You can see the cheddar throughout that summer sausage. So that one is done right there. I'm just going to throw her in my tube. I'm going to get the rest of these guys all stuffed, and then I'm going to throw them in the fridge for overnight and then get them on the smoker tomorrow. Okay guys, we're here the next day. I let these guys cure overnight. You can tell that they're all cured because the color's changed a little bit on there. Don't worry, that's what it's supposed to do. That's that pink curing salt doing its job. I got the Pit Boss Vertical 5 outside. I let it smoke for just a little while just to get that grill going, and then I cranked it to 150 degrees. I'm gonna leave it at 150 degrees for probably about an hour, and then I'll crank that grill up to 175 until the sausages go up to about 160 degrees. I'm going to throw the internal probe that comes with the grill in just one of these guys just to give me a rough estimate of what temperature the sausage is at. And then I'll come back before I pull them off with my MK4 and probe each one of them individually just to make sure that they hit that 160 degree mark. Okay guys, I just took these out of the ice bath. I let them sit in the ice bath for about 5 to 10 minutes. That was just to bring that meat down temperature so it stopped cooking. We pulled them right at 160 degrees and now they're ready to get into. Please like, subscribe, and comment below on anything that you want us to cook during this series. All the products that we use will be in the description as well. Now it's time for me to get into this. I'm just gonna cut it all the way sideways just so I can get that casing off. Now that I got that casing off, it's ready to cook. You can leave the casing on, but if you start chopping it up, then you have to peel it off. So I always just take it all off. I'll cut this in half so you guys can see. You can see all the cheese is exactly the same shape that it was when it went in there, and you can see the little fat throughout there. Perfectly cooked.